Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Sokola with Vocal Impact Productions. Today, we're going to talk about storytelling, specifically when you need to give information in a presentation, in a pitch, or just explain a really important principle to somebody, more than just telling people the facts, sharing the data line by line. What really gets through to people is when you can tell it in the form of a story. Stories are relatable, stories are engaging, stories are interesting, and stories paint a picture in a way that plain old facts and figures can't. So what I want to do today is to share with you 3 important steps to follow to make sure that your stories really are as engaging, compelling, and charismatic as possible. Not melodramatic, but ultimately the kind of story that's going to get through to people the way you want to, so that they have the impact you need to get the results that you want. First, use emotional language. Now, I don't mean melodrama. What I mean by emotional language is that you want to paint a picture, give enough description that's going to allow the listeners to see themselves in the shoes of the character or organization or person that you are talking about. One of the best ways to do this is to tell the story in first person. Now, what I mean by that is it's not necessarily a personal story about yourself. Maybe you're telling the story of a client that you worked with previously who had undergone a particular challenge. Tell that story through their eyes. So instead of saying they were worried about this, they were trying to figure out how to do that, they managed to achieve this outcome, talk it through as if they were telling it. So you would say to them, for example, they were saying to themselves, we're concerned about where revenue is going. Our shareholders won't be happy if X happens, so it's imperative that we come up with a solution before the board meeting at the end of the month. That's the we. That, by hearing that first person reference, the we, the I, it helps the listener to engage, to internalize, and to feel what it would be like, because they most likely would have a similar concern. Not only that, but give a little bit of insight into how that person or how that organization most likely felt. For example, everybody was really nervous, really concerned, really worried about this particular situation. Or everyone was so excited about this prospect that they really put their heart and soul into it. One way or another, giving the emotional expressions helps people to know how they should feel as they're listening. You're sort of subliminally cueing them on how you want them to feel. And as long as there's an emotional connection to your story, then they are more engaged. So that's step 1. Step 2 in impactful storytelling is the ability to talk in terms of conflict and resolution. You need to have a plot. Any good story does, any good movie, any good novel, or even magazine article. There needs to be a high and a low. There needs to be a problem, a conflict, a challenge, some sort of consternation that you need to solve. And when you frame things in terms of what the nature of the challenge was, personally, professionally, organizationally, financially, that's something that, again, most people can connect with, can relate to. And then most importantly, they want to know how you got from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs, or how you project that you're going to get there. But with the story, ultimately, it's usually an illustration of something that has happened or will happen, but you're telling it like it already did. So by explaining what that low point was and then showing what that high point is afterward, that's something that will then be effective in contrast. Because if you just tell people what's great, they don't have any reference point. But if you let them know where you started from, then they can see how far you went to get to that high point. And that's what makes it all the more inspirational. The problem is relatable because they often have a similar concern. But then when they know how someone else got there and they know how that other person felt in the end, then that's something that is inspirational to them. They want to get there too. Again, you've made the connection with relatable material. That's step 2. Rule number 3, end with a call to action. Make it something very explicit such as make sure you do this, or when you leave today, be sure to do that, or don't forget to do something or other. What's critical is that you frame it in terms of suggestions or recommendations, but don't leave it up to the listener to deduce what they should do based on what the people in the story did. Number one, people don't make that inherent jump. It seems like it should be obvious. It's not. Spell it out for them. But also, and more importantly, often what people learn from the story is a much bigger picture, and they get a little bit stuck in the paralysis by analysis because it seems like it's too big of a task to take on or too big of a project. So what you need to give them is next steps. What's the first thing you want them to do when they leave at the end of the day or at the end of this presentation? Do you want them to pick up the phone and call someone? Do you want them to go to your website? Do you want them to sign a petition? Tell them explicitly, make a recommendation, make a suggestion, give an instruction that they can clearly follow. And when you've been able to do those three things, you make it personal, you tell the story in terms of conflict and resolution, and then you end with a call to action. That's where people go with you on the journey and figure out exactly what they need to do to get the results you want. You have found a way to not just explain to them, but to captivate and to bring your information to light, and that's where you're going to get your results.